there's no doubt in our minds now, after all these years, that there is things in the sky that we don't know about, and we don't see them all the time, but they're there.
My inbox right now, Jim, is flooded with people not just seeing drones, but having visionary experiences, feeling like they're seeing things in their house, having weird clairvoyant moments and telepathic communication with other people and weird stuff. There's all kinds of, I'm getting tons of messages about all of this.
Yeah.
It's not just drones.
So you say, are these things projecting out any kind of information? Are they radioactive? Are they sending out signals? Or is there a large microwave component? And there's nobody, you don't know, because you don't have sensors on the ground measuring and quantifying these things. But we do, unfortunately, with all the devices that I now have out there. There's a bunch in New Hampshire right now that are actually on and looking. You could be going along your everyday life, and all of a sudden, maybe you're sitting in your house and a drone flies over that, pumping out serious microwave radiation. It picks it up. It does something to your psyche. It has some effect on your brain physiology.
You've even been to Washington, D.C. and reported on things in the last few
Yeah,
years.
so I briefed them at the Senate House in the Pentagon. We brief people, and it's interesting when you go to these places and you talk to these high level intelligence people. I mean, all the guys in the Senate, Senate building are all intelligence people, and they're all, because they're gathering information, they're reporting up to the senators, or doing all these things. And it's interesting to watch the dynamics in the room when you tell them things that you would expect they knew already. They're just looking for verification. You find out, well, they don't really know all these things. So, you question, what does the government really, really know deep down? If you think something's going on, don't think you're crazy, but take action. Don't just let it go.
There is a connection between the paranormal, UFOs, and the myths of ancient history. The clues are scattered across the landscape from a forbidden past, maybe even in your own backyard. There is a connection between the true nature of our reality, consciousness, and the unexplained. I'm Carl the Crusher. Let's explore the unknown.
That's crazy. You said there was how many in phase one?
So there's 36 total in phase one, but we had probably 40 people, and I switched devices back and forth depending on, what their activity was. If they weren't really participating much, we kind of said, thanks a lot, but, send it back and we'll send it off to somebody else. But we had 36, and then towards the end, it got, dropped off a little bit, but now we're way above that. So it's like, and it was, we had looked at how we were going to do this. It was one of those things. He says, we have a piece of equipment that we had made in like a shop setting, like a prototype setting. Now these, when everybody had said, we want to participate, we want a device, and they were, actually sending money. And I said, well, wait a minute, we have to get a little bit more professional than just, going in your basement doing a hobbyist thing. So we actually contracted somebody to do this. This is my first foray into that type of thing. It's crazy because it's like, it's kind of things you don't even understand. And then the boards came back and they didn't work. And I said, oh, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? So finally they got to work, and they're actually working really well now. So they were actually better than the actual ones that were they're manufactured by hand. And
Nice.
they have an automated facility and everything like that. So it's actually really nice. And
so the devices are all being built in an automated facility now. You were building them by hand. Because I started recording, I didn't give an intro or anything, just to bring everybody up to speed. Like about 6 months ago, we decided we were going to work together and start trying to help people understand when they have paranormal encounters or strange phenomena in their home. If they go outside and they witness a UFO or UAP, and they feel like they have personal contact with that experience, or have that hitchhiker phenomena like we hear about at Skinwalker Ranch, this has evolved into a whole project called the Modular Unidentified Phenomena Alert System that you have basically built as a cluster of sensors, advanced sensors that can detect that activity and track it coming and going and even following you home. So like all these people the reason that we're talking right now is because all these drones and plasma orb sightings and weird experiences. My inbox right now, Jim, is flooded with people not just seeing drones, but having visionary experiences, feeling like they're seeing things in their house, having weird clairvoyant moments and telepathic communication with other people and weird stuff. There's all kinds of, I'm getting tons of messages about all of this.
Yeah.
It's not just drones. So I think
Yeah.
people have a lot of questions. And you were originally building these devices by hand, these sensors, and building the website and everything. Now you're saying we've offloaded that over to a manufacturer, so people that want to get answers can order them and actually get a working device, follow the data.
Yep.
I guess let's
All
just
get
talk
the
about that.
alerts, get all that stuff. Yeah, and it all happened, back in 2017 when the big question that was presented to myself and another scientist, are people getting affected by things in the atmosphere or in the environment, like unknown things like orbs or UFOs or UAPs or whatever it is that's actually making them have these hallucinations or these premonitions or whatever sparks their experience. And so the big question is medically, is there a way to quantify this and put some physics around this and actual science around this? So we said, okay, we knew that people were getting hurt. They were actually having injuries because of this thing. So it was leaving medical footprints. If something leaves a medical footprint on you, there's an opportunity that we can actually go and record these things using a sensitive enough device. So we built a device. We built a device back in 2017, and we did a study of 30 plus people and found out, yes, indeed, there is a significant environmental change in the readings while these people are being affected and having experiences. And I believe you actually have had a couple instances where you've had an experience, and you look at the data and you do see these spikes coming up, and they say, wait a minute. So this is something that's not inborn inside of you or started inside of you. This is something that happened outside your body, entered your body, and it prompted this experience that you had. And a lot of people are having this. And then the thought is that, okay, now you got other things in the air. So we knew that we had UFOs in the air and orbs in the air and a lot of things flying around. Now you have drones in the air, and people are reporting. And I've heard, like you said, I've heard a lot of instances where people are having these issues, the same issues they were having with orbs and maybe UAPs. So you say, are these things projecting out any kind of information? Are they radioactive? Are they sending out signals? Or is there a large microwave component? And there's nobody, you don't know, because you don't have sensors on the ground measuring and quantifying these things. But we do, unfortunately, with all the devices that I now have out there. There's a bunch in New Hampshire right now that are actually on and looking. Unfortunately, they're not up in New Hampshire yet. So when they do get there, it'll be very interesting to see if there's any big microwave spikes or gamma spikes or anything like that when these drones are spotted. And then we have some camera systems that can go into this thing. So this study that we did quite a few years ago concluded about 2 years ago. We got kicked back off again, and subsequently people wanted to say, look, we want to go to a phase 2. Can you do a phase 2? And I said, we could do that, but I'm going to do the equipment a little bit differently from what I learned the first time. And, everything evolves. And we came up with a different design that was a lot easier to mass produce. So, getting it mass produced and getting it out to the people was a big challenge for us. And it's finally happened. So it's flowing pretty nicely now.
That's awesome. So we have all these guys and all these witnesses and experiencers like in New Jersey and now all over the world that are seeing activity and people looking up and experiencing it. And like you said, it's difficult to quantify that. How do you go from just seeing something in the sky and maybe taking pictures on your iPhone to actually getting data? And I think that's it's tricky for people to grasp. And so I think it's a good idea. First of all, why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about, like, again, remind us of your background, kind of your credentials, and some of the people that you originally worked with on this project that add credibility to this? Because, like, you work side by side with Dr. Hal Puthoff, and now he's a big major player kind of behind the scenes when it comes to this UAP research and even understanding crash recovery programs and a lot of interesting things. Some of it you probably can't even talk about. But
Yeah.
to give
How
some
have, you
insight
know,
into that, I think would be really
sure.
important to understand your credentials. And then we should talk about the sensor cluster and how that could help people.
Sure. So going back, going back to the original thing when I started getting involved in this after I got a PhD and I decided I want to go into science and started doing a lot of biological science, just trying to understand how the body reacts to medical or, outside radiations and things like that.
Mhm.
I was put in touch with a lab in Austin, Texas, called the Advanced Study or Institute for Advanced Studies in Austin, run by a guy named Dr. Hal Puthoff. He's a very, very famous scientist who has spent a lot of time on the fringe. He's looking at things that people don't really call everyday physics. So he was very good at that type of thing. And working with him, you get exposed to a lot of unworldly things that really are not within the mainstream science. And you start looking at these things and trying to piece together and give a causality of how these things can possibly happen. How can people have these visions? How can you see UAPs? How do you have experience of things like that? Just grew up in that environment with him for 10 years or so. And he was the one that actually prompted me to say, can you answer the question of whether or not people are actually getting influenced to have experiences from an outside source? So he's the one that actually arranged the funding. He did all the original stuff. And so he was the one that actually said, let's go answer this question. And we did. We spent 3 years running an experiment with many people. And we came up with some interesting answers, some good statistics that show that, in fact, there are things happening in the environment that sparks this whole experience thing. And people have these, either go into catatonia or they see things or they see orbs, they see, all sorts of different variety of things. But that's where my career got kicked off into this area. And it's usually strange. People don't just start off their career saying, I'm going to go into the fringe side of things, but you always, you go down the road and your story actually ends up to say, oh, wow, I am in the fringe right now.
Yeah,
And
you
it's
find yourself
actually,
in that
yeah,
category,
it's
right?
actually quite exciting because there's so many unanswered questions. And there's never a point that you say, oh, wow, I knew that, right? It's like, oh my God, I really, that's, you say, wow, I had no idea that existed, but it's interesting.
And
So,
it's a
going down the road, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's a deep rabbit hole. Just really quick, I wanted to mention for people that don't know, Hal Puthoff is one of the original founders of the remote viewing research and program that started off the entire psychic spy program for the
Right.
government and the army back in the day. So he was at the head of that at the Stanford Research Institute, and then was even the primary figure. Hal Puthoff and Dr. Travis Taylor were the first two people to analyze the alleged back in 1996 that turned up in there that were allegedly from Roswell. And Hal Puthoff and Travis Taylor were the first two to analyze that metamaterial that has made it all over the news. And now is, I believe, either in government hands or at To the Stars Academy, where Hal Puthoff still kind of works. And so it's interesting that you ended up there up and around Skinwalker Ranch and working with them in those later years on trying to answer this, not just with the crash recovery or metamaterial program, but how is this still affecting people now? And like you said, you go to look into this stuff, whether you like it or not. It's a deep rabbit hole because it goes clear back before World War II and all kinds of interesting programs, right? And so with your background, you wound up there working with Hal Puthoff, rubbing shoulders with these guys, and it came down to, okay, people are experiencing things. This stuff is coming into their home. So I kind of cut you off there. I just wanted to give that context for how this is all still going on. This whole everybody going and testifying before Congress. You've even been to Washington, D.C. and reported on things in the last few years.
So I briefed them at the Senate House at the Pentagon. We briefed people, and it's interesting when you go to these places and you talk to these high level intelligence people. I mean, all the guys in the Senate, the Senate building are all intelligence people, and they're all, because they're gathering information, they're reporting up to the senators or doing all these things. And it's interesting to watch the dynamics in the room when you tell them things that you would expect they knew already. They're just looking for verification. You find out, well, they don't really know all these things. So you question, what does the government really know deep down? I think they rely on people like Hal and Kit Green and those kind of scientists to bring them information. So, it's more, people ask, what does the government, they have all these secrets. They says, well, they're given this information by regular scientists that are on the street, the public. I mean, granted, they all have, top secret clearances and things like that, but it's the individual investigators like Hal that have the institutes that come up with this information that the government gets. Right. So it's actually quite rewarding to go there and find out that you know more than they do.
Yeah, that's been shocking for me too, is to kind of realize, even just like with working with you and talking to Brandon Fugel and everything, is that like you realize that you see these congressional reports coming out, everybody going and testifying and all of this stuff. And you hear Gary Nolan talking about interference syndrome and the effects on the brain when you come in contact with UFOs or the phenomena. And it trickles down. You realize they're talking about like me, they're talking about our friends that are part of phase one. And this is all the work that you've been doing a lot that has basically resonated up and, caused the people in the government to realize that they need to take a look at this. But you're right. It comes from people like us going out and investigating and then bringing the results back. And then they analyze it kind of from the top, and they are relying upon us. And it's been interesting with all of this going on in the news right now to watch how that happens, how it I'll even release a video on TikTok about the remote viewing that I did on the drones. And then like 2 days later, you see it kind of trickle up into the news. I'm like, I don't know if I'm spreading that rumor or if it's actually valid or what's going on. Yeah. But it's pretty fascinating. And so the need to get the actual proof and the evidence is there. So you started working with all these guys to develop the sensors. It completed in phase one. Now, did that report did go back to Washington then?
So that was that report actually was completed and given to our sponsor. Our sponsor who paid for that actually got that report. So it was never made public because it was more of a private thing. That was, like, again, it was held within the confines of Hal's group and things like that. But the output or the outcomes of the report was that when people do have these experiences, there is probably something in the environment that was the impetus of it or created that situation that it happened. So then that opens up to say, well, if that's the case, we can almost see when that's going to happen, predict it. So if you think about a device or, like a system that, and it wasn't just devices. I mean, so devices are great, but all they do. So if you think about, back up a little bit, think about how this whole science thing works. You really need to have twofold information simultaneously. What the person feels and sees, because we are amazing sensors. Our bodies have so many sensors in it, and we can sense the little tiniest thing, but we're the worst reporters ever because our imaginations, like, it takes over and tries to explain things and rationalize things. So you have to couple the narratives and what people are talking about with the scientific data that's being collected right next to them. So the system in whole is a combination of the two of them. So when we have participants, people that come into the study, we ask them to, have a sensor available, next to them, either they're wearing on the wrist or they're having it on their table, but also to tell us their narratives on a day-to-day basis. And that's the important stuff. That's the stuff that really starts getting down to the point where you can classify or quantify what this person is feeling and how they're doing. If they're seeing things on a regular basis, is it periodic? Is it happening when they have a certain situation? Are they reporting something and then a little while later something happens? So, these are the kind of things that the system pulls out, and that's what the whole system was designed around. So you have a collection of sensors that people can use in their environments, and then they have portals where they can go and they can add all this information easily and do all the kind of information upload that allows us to take it and make, nice models from it. So we can do, I hate to say this, but we can do predictions to let people understand what's coming, what's down the road. I mean, are you in a good state? Are you in a bad state type of thing?
So maybe describe a little bit, tell everybody what what you're talking about, the sensors. We keep mentioning this, but what do the sensors actually capture? Because it's not just like some Ghostbusters thing where an alarm goes off. It actually has highly sensitive pieces of equipment in there. What are we looking for, and what are we detecting that we could classify as supernatural or paranormal, as a not normal signal that's invading your space?
Sure.
So let's say I'm in New Jersey. I'm a citizen there. I just saw something weird outside, and then I go in my house and it feels like my house is haunted and I'm having strange experiences. What would we look to capture with the device that would be an actual indicator of significance?
Well, so it's all typical devices or devices that read the signals that might get perturbed when something energetic is flying over your house or within your environment, like an orb or a UFO or some kind of drone that has some kind of aggressive payload on it. You're looking at the microwave. Obviously, a microwave is usually prevalent. When these big motors spin up on a drone, you get a lot of this electromagnetic energy that gets flying around, so you can sense all that. UAPs are, I mean, they're known for pumping out lots and lots of electromagnetic energy and all over the spectrum. There's also a lot of things when you have very, very high energy particle or high energy devices or high energy objects floating by. You get a lot of gamma because you have all this energy coming off of it, and it actually will make things decay. It'll make particles decay, and you'll get a lot of gamma radiation. So we've got microwave sensors, we've got gamma sensors, but at the same time, because of the way these things operate, you're changing the space-time metric a little bit, and you get a change in, say, the magnetic vector, or you may get a change in the acceleration vector. So, maybe your gravity has just shaken a little tiny bit. So we've got sensors to sense the gravity, the magnetic fields, and then also the gyroscopic fields. Are these large objects twisting our metric a little bit? So we have gyroscopic sensors in there. So we have all these high level sensors, and all these sensors are made by pretty sophisticated people like Siemens and Intel. They all have these high level sensors. They call them MEMS sense. I don't know if you're familiar with it. MEMS is a miniaturization of like substrates where you can actually have very, very sophisticated sensing devices in little tiny packages, and they're called MEMS. So all of these sensors are based on MEMS technology. So you have like accelerometers, and you've got like little magnometers all inside these little packages, but they're little tiny chips. So it makes it so you can put a little tiny thing in your home without having all this scientific instrument. It's all boiled down to this little tiny thing. So all these things are made by these these companies that have been doing it for many, many years, and we package those. So, and then on top of that, you have things like, we're looking for the GPS signal. It turns out that when something high energetic goes over your house, it puts out a lot of signals, and that sometimes upsets your GPS. So like, if you drive down the road, you go past a high tension wire, you lose your GPS. So we're looking for that. We're seeing if our GPS. So GPS tells you how many satellites it's connected to. Normally it's like up to 12. Usually it's about 8 satellites that your GPS is connected to. But if you get something energetic that flies over the top of it, all of a sudden your GPS starts dropping off. So we look for a drop off in GPS signal. And sometimes that's a big indicator of something going on. So we've got GPS sensors in there. We look for infrasound. Infrasound's a biggie because even with the anything that goes ahead and pumps out a lot of energy is going to create infrasound, which is a very, very large bandwidth or large wavelength sound vector, which actually will propagate over the surface of the earth. And that's another thing that we look for. So we look for the infrasound. So we have infrasound sensors on it. So, and then we have, we're looking for anything that is a degrading signal that when something high energy comes along, it actually is perturbing it. So we're not just looking for like big signals, we're looking for drops of signals. So, and it's all, to be honest with you, we don't really see anything physically. We have AI engines that just go constantly. Like right now, every night we take all the data gathered for the day, we run it through our AI engines, and then we send out all these alerts to say, look, there's something very suspicious going on here or something like that. So, and then, on top of that, you have environmental stuff. You have barometric pressures, you have your humidity sensors. All these things get affected. Like if you've got something high energetic that goes by, you get a lot of, like static electricity in the air, a lot of spare electrons go flying around. That affects your humidity and your, not so much your pressure, but your humidity, because the water molecules tend to bunch up together. And so when you get a big drop in humidity, when things fly by, that's an indicator. But what's the coolest thing is that now you've got, say, we actually have 15 indicators in the device, the standard device. We have add-ons and things like that. But what you're looking for is multiple channels that change at the same time, and then also marrying that to something that somebody says in their narratives. Like, a lot of times what you're going to hear is people saying, I'm just going along my everyday, all of a sudden I started to get this anxious feeling in my head, like somebody was watching me, or something's wrong, and I'm looking around, what's going on. You get that, like that feeling that something is wrong. And maybe you look out to the sky and the dogs start barking. Of course, it always happens. It's just kind of funny. 99% of the time, they says it all started when the dogs start barking, and then all of a sudden I started feeling really weird. So that's the kind of anecdotal things that we're looking for, married to the sensor readings, and that's the kind of stuff that this whole system is designed to capture. And then on top of that, what we do is that every night, like I said, we spin through all this data. And then we send out these alerts to people if they want them, but we show them graphically that, like, like here you had this, an alert here, or you had people do observations on things and stuff like that. So, that's the system that is allowed to capture this type of data and give people peace of mind that, they're not making, this stuff is not being made up in their head and just coming out. They're seeing these things, they're actually doing these things.
So just as an example, we have a bunch of reports that you could probably give examples to. I know a lot of them are confidential and things like medical reports, but let's just say, like, if someone does have a sensor in their home, and I can talk about this too, some of my experiences with having the sensor and how that actually works. Like, when you log into the device, let's say I'm outside, I have an experience when I'm in an ancient canyon and I come home, my house feels haunted and I'm having these weird hitchhiker phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
How would I look at the data on the device? Would I be able to tell if it was just a drone, or if it was something man-made, or if it is something anomalous? So how would you tell the difference between just a regular human drone flying over your house and maybe a UFO? Is there a way to tell in the markers, or would it be similar? Like if someone in New Jersey bought one of these devices, would they be able to see the difference?
Well, what they will say is if the drone is actually, or let's say this aerial vehicle, if it's pumping out energy, if it's actually creating energy, that's when you start saying that you get an increase in electromagnetic energy, or maybe your gravity vector starts getting bigger and things like that. But then sometimes you get a lull. In other words, you get things that are taken away. That means that something is actually destroying these things and actually come in there and doing it's actually overpowering these things. So you get a lull. So it's not easy to tell the difference between what type of vehicle, but it's interesting to see. You can tell from the data that it's a classification of what these things are actually doing to your signals that are in your environment. So, like, for instance, when a drone goes over and it's maybe it's a passive drone just taking readings, and all you're going to get maybe is just the motor noise and things like that. So you'll pick up some infrasound, you'll pick up some sound, you'll pick up some electromagnetic energy. So if you marry those together, and you start seeing patterns. But all in all, I mean, you physically are not going to be able to look at this thing and say, "Oh, this is going to be this." What we do is we go through every night, we look at them, we look for anomalies, and we say these anomalies happened at this time, and we look at the cameras. A lot of these, I don't have a device with me, but our devices have a camera now, and it does infrared and it does regular visible light. So if you can then put this thing, put it in a window, face it up to the sky, if you see something like the red and green, the red and green navigational lights on a drone, and at the same time, you're going to get some type of signal change. So like the electromagnetic energy, like went off the rails and went really high. That's when the system kicks out and says, look, I don't know what this is, but it's really weird. And it'll ask you, can you tell me what this thing is? What happened at an exact time? And that's the data we're looking for. So the system's not smart enough to say it's a drone, but it knows that it's weird and it knows that it's different. And it's going to ask you, oh, by the way, here's an instance that happened that day. That's part of the alert. Can you tell me information? So the next time it happens, I'm a little bit smarter and I can alert you to say, look, the last time this happened, you said it was a drone. Is it a drone? It could have been a drone, because people don't realize this, but 99% of the times they don't see the things that they should see. A drone could be 100 feet away on the other side of the house. You never saw it. But the one that you did see is on, it happened that time. But just because it's over on that side of the house doesn't mean that it didn't make the same electronic noise. So then it goes back and looks at the data and says, oh, by the way, the last time you told me about this signal did this. It happened this time, but you didn't see anything. But pretty sure that is probably the same thing that happened. So it looks for anomalies. That's what the whole idea is. It's constantly looking for anomalies. It doesn't like like the first time it saw a bird fly over it, it said, oh man, that's an anomaly. But it said, oh, no, it's a bird. Don't worry about it. And now it's after seeing thousands and thousands of birds, it says, oh, don't worry about it. This is just a bird. But if it sees something it doesn't understand, it asks, it says, what the hell was this?
Gotcha. So something like a drone flying over might just pick up basic electromagnetic signals or kind of subtle shifts or even the sound and things like that, maybe. But if you get some weird shift in GPS or in the gravity or infrasound or gamma radiation, that it's something that like a drone, a normal man-made or private owned drone could produce, then something just flew over your house or interacted with you that is unknown or is anomalous.
An
And then,
anomaly.
like you said, pairing that up with the witness stories, that's been the whole thing, is because sometimes I'll have strange experiences where I'm not even outside. I'll be in my house and it's like almost some sort of a vision, like I'm sucked into a dream and I experience things. And there's all these chains of coincidence and synchronicity where I'll get texts and phone calls and emails and all on the same topic. And then I have this sort of vision happen. And what's weird is even in those instances, I've been able to log into the device, go on the website, and sure enough, right when I was having that strange moment that normally I would just be like, that was weird and move on with my day, the device is, the MUPAS is capable a lot of times of capturing simultaneous spike in EMF, microwave, and gamma. And you can see it jump off the charts, whereas the rest of the day it's been completely baseline and normal. You can see like the sensor's used to my house, it's used to these waves, all the lines are flat. And then right when I'm having this weird experience that I can't explain, the sensor in my house in the other room is measuring that. It's capturing that something actually happened. And so this is another one of those layers that helps us understand how some of these experiences, while our subconscious mind and our anticipation and imagination might fill in the gaps and paint the picture, it's a clue or a glimpse that something greater is going on. These things aren't just imaginary. There's actually an energy or an interaction that's happening where something is coming into your environment and triggering these events. And so
That's true.
right. So can you share maybe some of those experiences that you've witnessed that are significant to you or that kind of first stood out like, wow, there really is something to this that's not just imaginary or a
Yeah,
hallucination?
I mean, we can talk about this. There's a lot of instances. So during the first study where we had 36 people that lasted 3 years, we had thousands and thousands of anecdotal type of narratives that were sent in, over the website to say, this happened, I don't feel good. But a couple stand out. There was a lot of instances where people would report that they felt as though they were being watched, and they were felt to the point where they would actually not leave the house. They would actually, stay within the house. And then what they were doing actually was kind of interesting. What they were doing is actually using the device to see whether or not they should go out. They would see that the levels would be rising and things like that. They would say, "Oh wait, what the hell's going on? Maybe I shouldn't go out." But then the levels would start, falling down. You wouldn't get so many ripples in the levels. They would feel more comfortable going out, and they would go out. So it's, those are the type of things that, gives you a little bit of pause, whether or not, you want to make sure that, everything is very viable. So a lot of instances like that, where people would go someplace and they would, feel, like they would see a UFO, or they would feel anxious, or feel like there's somebody watching them, and they would come back and they would find out that the device registered something that was out of the ordinary, something that, maybe a big microwave spike, or maybe at that point a big gamma ray spike. I can actually show you some examples of actual examples if you'd be interested.
Yeah, there should be an option to share screen. Go ahead.
Yeah, so let me just, if I guess you can pause at this point.
Sure.
And then I also have a device right behind me. I think my wife must have one on her desk that I can.
So the one I have is like one of the first models, one of the early
that
models.
was the original model. Yep.
The original, yeah. Yeah, no rush. This is super easy to edit all this out. I'm going to just throw it in the software and put my intro to the start and all that too.
I'm just going to present a quick, this is just a collection of different, so what the system does, so this is a great example right here, which I'm sharing the screen. So what the system here, I think this is a limit microwave radiation. So if you can think of what the system is doing, so there's a sensor in your environment very, very close to you that is reading the electromagnetic signal. It's got an antenna in, it's got all that stuff, and it's reading. You can see over here, you can see my cursor, right? So it's reading and reading and reading, and very, very flat. This is just noise from your cell phone, from your microwave oven, blah, 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 just your everyday stuff. Then all of a sudden you get these points where you had these incredibly large spikes. And associated with this is a narrative. And this would be a narrative that somebody would write in. So this happened a few years ago, and I got permission to put this in here. But
so that's like their journal entry attached to that spike, what they experienced personally. They type it in there. Yeah.
Right. So I have a system that people go in there and they can put in their thing. They can upload photos. They can do all sorts of stuff. But then after, like I said, at night, I process this thing and I look for correlations. And this is a particular instance where you had these incredibly large microwave spike associated right next to a narrative that somebody put in that says, I've had some problems, or I had some things, or something. So this is very typical of what kind of situation that this would happen. So you could be going along your everyday life, and all of a sudden, maybe you're sitting in your house and a drone flies over that, pumping out serious microwave radiation. It picks it up. It does something to your psyche. It has some effect on your brain physiology, and you start basically hallucinating or having some kind of an experience. And then, we ask people to, if they do have these experiences, to put this in. Now, it happens during this study. Nobody actually ever saw the data until 2 weeks later. So this is all blind. So nobody actually knew that this spike happened to this particular person until 2 weeks afterwards. So they put this thing in when they had the experience, whatever day it was. And then since then, they were, since that time, they were actually, surprised as hell to see that there was a correlation between a very large microwave spike and this thing happening. Now, exactly what flew over their house or what happened, we don't know. This is not capable of identifying that. All it knows is anomalies. It says, this is weird. Something strange happened, because normally if you look at their data, this is it. They can be making cell phone calls, or, their whatever, it could be their computer or whatever, their Wi-Fi. And then all of a sudden you get this monster spike. So this is one of the examples. And then, here's another example. All of these examples that I show you are what had some type of correlation between what somebody felt and then what the equipment read. So there was all this noise on this particular one. This is.
Can you zoom in just a little bit on that page?
Yeah.
Does it let you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's better.
Oh yeah. This is in the acceleration vector. So if you think about the acceleration of this green acceleration vector, this is what keeps you pinned to the earth so you don't fly away. If you didn't have this thing,
the sensor thought that it was moving, like something
was going on. It was like something wacky was going on, and there was some really big noise, and it was not in any particular direction. It looked like it was all over the place. So, and this was actually quite interesting. But this is, the person actually, I don't know exactly sometimes we don't get permission to actually put this on here. So we have to actually get permission from the person if they want to share their data publicly. But this person didn't. Then there was other ones like this particular one. This is a gyroscopic. Now, gyroscopic is interesting. Gyroscopic means that we're sitting here and we're actually, space-time metric is actually sitting still normally. But every once in a while, it starts rotating. And it rotates because something big and energetic is flying by or doing something weird around you that makes us twist a little bit. Now, when I say a little bit, it's in the nanometers. It's so small, but these sensors are sensitive enough that it picks it up. It picks up a little gyroscopic effect, like, your whole environment. And it's not, you wouldn't feel it, but your whole environment's twisted. And you can see that this thing just took a big deviation right at that point. And it was just one of those things that, they reported something happening.
Like a wave in space-time, like that, like you're in a ripple or a wake. That would be like
exactly.
Like someone might experience a deja vu or a strange experience, and then look at the device.
So this would actually create this situation right here in the jar. This actually creates a lot of air problems because your body relies on understanding where you are, right? You need to have that. And if your station tubes, if you kind of move that a little bit, even slightly, your body picks that up, and its reaction is, something's wrong. I'm going to throw up. So it makes you nauseous. So you get a lot of that kind of stuff. So probably that's what was reported during this period of time.
Interesting.
You get like this was like really weird. This particular case, I don't know the case, but this is, again, you have some microwave data, everything is fine. And then all of a sudden you get this, very, very large spike. I mean, you would have to have the door on your microwave open and the device inside the microwave to get this big of a spike. And so it's been tested by these guys. And so every time you buy a sensor, you get the spec sheet on, what you'd have to do to actually, bring it to the rails. And so these are the kind of things that people are finding in their houses. And here's another.
And these are overlapping with them putting in their journal entries, like that they had some kind of an experience or they saw a UFO, and then the device is capturing some kind of a proof that there was a ripple in space-time or in gamma, or gravity was shifted whenever they saw this. So it's proof outside of just them telling stories and pictures on their cell phone that something anomalous, something more than just like maybe a drone or the regular activity of their microwave and air conditioner in their house and their Wi-Fi router, all of that can be eliminated by that baseline. And suddenly there's this massive spike that we can look at that correlates with the experiencer witnessing and having the phenomena affect them. And you can overlap that up. And then imagine just really quick that we've got one in this neighborhood, and then the next block over, your neighbor also has a sensor. And then a few blocks down or across town, maybe someone else has one. And you could potentially track the movement from sensor to sensor as something flies overhead, right?
That's right.
Right. And how it affects people who aren't even talking to each other. Different participants. There might be another participant in the same community that I live in, and I would have no idea if I started getting a microwave and gamma radiation spike and my sensor starts to go off and I have an experience outside, the guy across town might also capture the exact same or similar experience, and then that data can be paired together, and we
That's
have
right.
evidence of an event, right? Yep.
Yeah. So in this situation, this was weird because normally, so if you look at the right here, normally their day is like this, but then they had this day that everything just seemed weird, and all of a sudden they went along. They had these big spikes, and then something unplugged itself. It says we had something unplugged itself, and then ever since then it just went quiet, and that was it. Looked back at the data and saw this crazy stuff all day. Most of the day. It started before 12 o'clock, and then it ended up just after probably about 1900, probably 7 o'clock at night, and it unplugged. They checked it out, and then we went back to the data a little while later. We saw that there was this incredible amount of stuff, but they physically went to a room and they said something got unplugged. I don't know what it was, but something got unplugged. And they said, it's in a room by itself. Nobody was. No, I don't even think somebody was home. It just got unplugged by itself, and it was kind of weird. This is another spike somebody had that they had a big correlation. Normally, it's just this, and all of a sudden they had this big spikes. So these are examples that kind of jumped out that we found very, very strange things going on when something happened. So, in other words, like this might be a situation where something was flying over the house and just sitting there going back and forth or doing a pattern around the house. So just going, maybe there was a high energy, something. We don't know what it was. So these are all the examples that, we've had a lot of examples, but these are like, this is a weird one. You can't even figure out what the heck this is. But this was
what would cause that? That's like a complete separation and a jump, like it vertically.
It just jumped up.
And which crazy signal is that? Is that the
this is microwave? This is microwave again. Yep. Microwave's a biggie. Yep.
I always get microwave paired with gamma. It seems like the gamma radiation and the microwave both will spike.
Yeah,
like
crazy, right?
To give people an example, like let's say I will go and hike up an ancient canyon that has petroglyphs, and I'll spend the evening there, maybe even film strange orbs in the sky with my night vision and stay for a few hours out there. And then I'll come home and go to bed. And then like in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and feel like my body's being scanned. Like I've even reported this to you and typed it in the journal entries before. It feels like a vibration or like a vroom, vroom, like this wave is going through my body. And my intuition feels like it's coming up through the earth, like from deep underground. I would almost think there's like a train going underneath, like some secret military tunnel that's boom, 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 going, like the train cars are going underneath my house. But then that will lead sometimes into these total sleep paralysis episodes where I'll see a weird shadow figure in the corner of the room moving around, or I'll have a whole out of body experience or dream or vision where I'll even see my deceased father, or I'll have visions of interesting things, that I'll report. And then you wake up in the morning, and I've even had instances where you've messaged me and said, hey, your sensor went off last night, and it's before I even have time to make my coffee and type in the journal report. I'm like, well, last night was pretty wild, but it's amazing. And it's been really validating for me just to realize that, I'm not making this stuff up. And these aren't just like regular nightmares I'm having. There's actually an energy, whether we know what it is or not. There's something coming into the environment, and the device and the sensors are catching the evidence of that right before I'm experiencing this. And so to me, it's been really validating that I'm not just schizophrenic or something or crazy. Maybe I am, but I mean, there's now scientific data and the evidence like that can be measured and captured to support those experiences, or at least lend some validity to the fact that you're not just imagining these events.
So let me show you some other actually interesting things if you got a couple more.
Of course.
So there's a
I think this is it's just so relevant with all, I mean, they're seeing like over 50 drones a day coming off the ocean and flying over people, hundreds of them. People are seeing these things flying all over, and they cannot tell whether they're actual man-made drones or something weird. Now everybody's talking about plasma phenomena and strange experiences. And then the government comes out and releases a thing today, and they basically just say they're all misidentified, just drones and helicopters. And they like we're supposed to, like we're all stupid. I don't know. It's just crazy to me. Like,
Well, again, I just want to, I don't think they know a lot. That's the problem. And now we're going to have a change, right? We're going to have a big change. So that means all the top tier guys get replaced by other top tier guys. So it's going to be one of those kind of things where, it's always going to be, they don't stay in office very long. So they get switched out. So I wanted to share this with you. And this is a project that we launched into a property that is very, very active. And I just want to show you some of the very interesting videos. So these are the videos that we took. This is November 2020. So this actually happened just recently, like maybe a year ago. So this is a situation where somebody was filming. Let me just run these things. So you can see it's snowing, but there's these orbs that fly, a lot through the house. And you can see this. So they got a close up of this. And this is also, so we equip this particular person with a sensor so they can actually film. So there's two sensors, right? So the camera's one sensor picking up all these orbs. And then the other sensor is, in the background recording all the environmental signals. And some of the interesting things that happen.
Can you go back to that page really quick?
Oh, sorry.
That first one. I was just going to point out personnel who are familiar with and have expressed interest in the property: Jim Simivan, Dr. John Alexander, Jay Stratton, Travis Taylor, Gary Nolan, David Crush, Lou Elizondo, David Fravor, and you, Dr. Jim Segala. So these are all the who's who the government's UAP research program, including Skinwalker Ranch and the development of all of this tracking. So when you hear basically the government talking about UFO disclosure and crash recovery programs, these are the guys. These are the guys they're talking about, right?
Yep, they all weighed in on this particular case where this guy is, first of all, I think this goes back to November 2021, where he started seeing things, and it's like he got really scared. I mean, because he wanted to get, sell the house, get out of there. But then he said, okay, wait a minute, I'm an engineer. I'm going to go figure this thing out. So he put some recording devices back there. About a year, like maybe 8 months ago, he got a hold of me and said, is there anything you can help me with? I provided some equipment for him to instrument his house. And it was very enlightening what happened. So let me just skip to this is one particular night on 3/11. So this is just, this is March 11th. There was a particular situation where they started seeing this thing. We went back to look at the data, and it looked very, very strange. So there was so right here where this magenta line is here, between here and here, is when they actually in the camera spotted the orbs. But during that time, the sensors, 3 different sensors went crazy, or 4 different sensors actually. So this bottom graph here in blue, this blue line is the microwave data. Normally that blue line just bounces in between these 2 dotted red lines, and it's the average is this dark red line. So it just usually, if you go back to any other day, or most days, it's just sitting here bouncing around. But it just
mostly flat, just like a little vibration. Flat. But this is like huge peaks and valleys.
Yep. But when this object appeared, it looked like it escalated all day long to the pinnacle of when it happened, and it just slowly went away. And after that, within what, 4 hours later or something like that, it just completely went away. So that's the microwave really went crazy. The green line here is the gamma. That was the disturbing one, because normally the green line is flat all day long. This might be a big bump down here for a normal day, but all of a sudden it started bumping up crazy. And then right when the drone hit, you had this biggest spike in the data. So that tells you that's whatever this thing was out there was kicking off radiation that was actually causing the radioactive material in the ground to actually release gamma rays, and we were picking it up with the sensor.
So it's
So
actually
that was,
affecting the Earth itself. Started giving
yeah.
off gamma
So,
waves because
yeah,
of this orb that appeared.
right. When
Wow.
you excite some of these, there's radioactive material in the ground all over the place, and it usually has long, long half lives. But when you excite it and you bounce it around, shake it up, you get a lot more spontaneous emissions or
Hmm.
actually decays, and that's what this thing
Somehow
picks up. So,
it like releases that potential radiation
right.
and then
Like the
it,
radon, and you've got everybody's got radon, right? So, but when you get certain energies that enter the ground, it could make the radon actually decay faster and release its energy, and that's what you pick it up.
wow. So that
So
green
that's what we
line,
were
that gamma wave or that gamma radiation, that green line is supposed to be flat, and instead you've
should be
got
flat, yeah,
wow.
or maybe a little, a little shaky, but not like that. That was pretty big. And then at the same time, the magnetic vector went crazy. So normally the magnetic vector is just bounces in between this line. All of a sudden, it just escalated that day and went way up, and then came back down again after the orb left. Same with the gyroscopic. So whatever flew by not only affected the gravity vector, which is the vector holding you to the Earth, but it's actually the spin vector actually um, got affected. So that's this line up here. So that's the gyroscope. So the gyroscopic vector.
Hmm.
So this is a big deal for us. This went back. Gary Nolan took a look at this. Travis took a look at this. A lot of people looked at this and scratched their head and said, "Boy!" But this particular instance was the first time we actually filmed orbs in the air, anomalous orbs in the air, and at the same time recorded anomalies in the electromagnetic, the gamma, and the other IMU sensors. So this was a big thing.
Hmm.
And subsequently, there's been at least 3 more of these since then. So this is back in March. So, we're looking at, what's that, 8 months later now? And,
So
or 9 months
that was
later?
this year. Can you say
Yeah, it was this
where
year. It just
can you
recently
say
happened.
where it
Yeah.
was? What state it was
It's in
in?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Can't
Okay.
get, they're secret. It's, this is a private residence. So they didn't really
Right.
want to, but it's in New Hampshire. And very quiet piece of land. I went there and there's nobody around.
Hmm.
And at first they thought it was drones and things like that, but it's, we don't know. We had no idea what this thing, whatever it is pumping out a lot of energy. That's all we know.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And then there's some other stuff in this thing, but just to give you an idea, there's something else. Just one other thing I wanted to show you is that some of the devices that we have out there, like for instance, let me just, if you bear with me here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is real-time data coming from a sensor. This is just a test sensor that I have. These are all the things that it measures. So this is actually this. So this is the portal. So this is the portal that we provide to everybody that has a device or wants to monitor a device. So this is like the real-time view. So this is our portal, and basically what you have
This is
is
what the website looks like when you
yeah.
log in. Yeah.
So this is the real-time screen. That's why it has the picture. This has a real-time screen. And what you get is that this is like, for instance, this is the electromagnetic energy. So this is nothing. There's nothing going on right now. There's no big spikes. If you see something like, if there was like a big spike or like a drone went over the top or something like that, you get a big spike here when this cruise by. This is the magnetron, but I can switch this over to any of the sensors. So I could do microwave. I could do the Geiger counter. We have a microwave spectrum, meaning that I can not only tell you what the energy is, but I can tell you what frequencies it actually is. This is all of the IMU stuff like accelerometer, magnometer, gyroscope. You were asking about all the different things. The environmental, we can do temperature, pressure, humidity. Temperature, pressure, and humidity are biggies. Those are really good indicators of what's going on. We can capture imagery if they have a camera attached. You could do the GPS number of satellites in the connection. We could do the infrasound, and we can also look at the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is another good indicator that we don't really know, what's going on. If So I'll just add that to this one. So this is the sound, but we can switch it to, all sorts of things. So we can look at the pressure. This should be pretty. Yeah, this is really not that. It's
And
not
what
going to
we're
be
seeing even right now, that's live data. So that's tracking.
Oh, this is live data. Yeah. This is live
now.
data.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are going to ask, it says Blind Frog Ranch at the top. Is that where the sensor's at right now?
No, it's actually, this tab is RI. So this is.
Oh, we're on RI.
Yeah.
Okay. Rhode Island. Yeah.
This is Blind Frog Ranch. So this is another device. Oh, this is actually. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, 52 is gone. So yeah, because their generators turn off. 52 is off. So I get no data for 52.
No worries. Yeah. I just figured people are probably going to ask if we have one at Blind Frog.
Oh yeah, because I don't know if anybody knows this, but just went to we were at Blind Frog over the summer. They were having some significant problems with strange anomalous things going on in the environment, and there was just crazy stuff going on. So what they asked me to do is come up there, instrument, see if you could find anything, and what we found is that you had some significant. There was several channels that it happened on, but it almost. So we left some sensors overnight, and there was some crazy things happen. Like some of the machines shut down, the generator, had a problem, but we saw something actually orbiting above the property, and that was actually part of what happened. I mean, it was like the most amazing thing. We left it overnight. We went home, we had our dinner. We came back the next day, looked at the data, and sure enough, it looked like there was something orbiting that was pumping out some serious, it was actually affecting the magnetic vector. So the magnetic vector was going crazy. And also we picked up a lot of electromagnetic energy. So there was something really weird going on at that ranch during that night. And they said most nights there are just so many weird things going on. So that's what they invited me out there to see if I can figure out what the heck it was. But, and then part of what we could do is like, this is, just like the normal stuff. We can go back, and do historical things. We can, actually go back. I can go back, over the week and see what's happened over the week. So we've got some, really weird things going on over here.
That's the Z-axis is somehow affected.
Oops, turned everything off. I don't want to do that. Yeah. Oh, this is the magnometer. Yep. So the blue one, turn everything else off. So we got some weird stuff going on here. So, this is kind of like it's stable, and all of a sudden, it's going. So this is X. So this is going across, and then the Z looks like that. So the Z actually looks pretty good.
Z looks
normal. Z looks pretty flat, right? That's the thing holding you to the earth.
Right.
But it does bump up every once in a while. And then let's see, take a look. I haven't actually looked at this in a long time. So this is actually fun going back.
Yeah,
and looking at the data and say, hey, what's going on with this?
So just to give people an idea, like we said, the FBI, Homeland Security, the FAA, they all came out today and said that all these drones and orbs that everybody's seeing globally now all over the place, people are going out and witnessing and seeing things and having experiences. And the official report that just came out today is that everyone is misidentifying just regular craft and drones, that we're all dumb. We're all mistaken. We don't know what we're talking about. And these things are imaginary. And we're just seeing regular planes and drones, and we're making mistakes. And what we're trying to do here and what we're trying to offer is an alternative, that if you are convinced that that is not the case, that this is some kind of a psyop, or they're covering up for something, or there really is orbs, plasma entities, or supernatural phenomena, whatever, UFOs that are interacting with you, there are ways that you can get help. And there are ways that you can capture the evidence of that, besides just watching the news and being told different narratives and stories and getting lost in that mix. So you can actually get the data and get the proof, so that more than just stories, you have the actual evidence. And this evidence, when it is valid, is gathered and does make a difference. And it does go back and become part of the disclosure process to help Congress and the Senate and these politicians who come in and move out of these temporary jobs in the government so that they can have an idea of what's happening to us as regular citizens in our day-to-day lives when we're affected by this, right? So that's what we're trying to do, is provide an actual tangible solution that you can measure and track these experiences, rather than just go telling your family and then getting looked at like you're crazy. Because the evidence is supporting that this is real, that there's something really going on.
And this is, this goes back so many years when, maybe 30 years ago, when people started having these problems, seeing these things, and they couldn't rationalize it. Their brains just couldn't rationalize it. So now we've evolved, our technology's evolved. So now instead of just sitting there like, with the big, like, oh, I don't know what to do. Now we have a defense to do something about it, and not have to, basically not have to be subject to this thing, and basically take over.
Yeah. What do you have to say to everybody that's in the last month or so that's been seeing these large drones flying over? What is your impression as you're watching the news and seeing them come out and talk? Even Trump came out and said that we know what they are, or we can track them. We even know what garage they go back and park in. And then he said he's canceling his plans because something strange is going on. There's a ton of people on TikTok right now that are convinced that these drones are trying to look for orbs and plasma, that there's some kind of an uptick in orb activity. And this idea that there's actual living plasma interacting with us in some way, like UFOs, is a huge topic of conversation. I just want to know and give you an opportunity to talk about what's going on in the news and give your opinions.
Well, I think that there's no doubt in our minds now, after all these years, that there is things in the sky that we don't know about, and we don't see them all the time, but they're there. They might not be visible to us, but they're there making, whatever signals there are. So then the big question is that, are we being affected by these, or are they completely harmless and they're not affecting our lives, or not affecting our psyche or our physiology? And I think that's quite wrong. I think that you have to realize that anything you put in our environment is going to affect us. So even though you say, well, it's just a drone, it's just a normal drone, you don't know what payloads they have. They might be pumping out some serious RF, and that could affect us. It could be, if it's looking for lost radiation, or lost radiation material, it's pumping out some serious. It's not a passive sensor. It's pumping out some serious stuff. So, and then, all the talk about orbs and UFOs and, all these things all throughout the years, you can't discount all the reports and people's narratives. They say now 70% of the population has had these anomalous experiences. You can't discount that anymore. You can't say, well, they're all crazy. Well, that means everybody's crazy. So you can't, in science, when you have enough data, the law of large numbers says that it has to be true. You can't discount it. So if there is something in the environment that's affecting us, and it's happened all these times, we can't just slough it off and say that, we'll let it go. So you have to, there's something that was said, way back, people that have the ability to find answers have the responsibility to find the answers. And that's been, basically Hal Puthoff's motto for all these years. He said, I'm going to take an initiative. I'm going to go figure out what's going on, because there's people out there that are getting hurt. They're scared and they're afraid to leave their house. They have all these trepidations. So, we're here to help these people. So it's Carl, and myself and Travis Taylor and, all those guys that are in this business trying to understand this thing, my hat's off to everybody, because it's like, we're there to try to figure out what this thing is. And when people say, well, I just saw this thing and I don't want to tell anybody because I think I'm crazy. Well, that's going away. That whole stigma of people not being able to own up to what's going on and what they're seeing is going away. Look at the social media. Everybody's talking about it now. So that whole thing is that, if I say something, they're going to put me in the loony bin. Well, that doesn't happen ever. It's never, it doesn't happen anymore. So my thoughts to everybody is that if you think something's going on, don't think you're crazy, but take action. Don't just let it go. Try to figure it out. Look at it. Buy a camera. Take it with your cell phone. Whatever you have to do to prove that there's something going on.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. You're right. I think we can sit and we can wonder, and I got sick of it. I think 5 years ago, waiting for the government to give me answers, or for other people to tell me what it was, and even organized religion and everything, trying to look for answers all over the place and just
Yeah.
not finding anything that was making sense to what I was experiencing. And yeah, when I started working with you and looking into this kind of stuff, it's lent a lot of validity and credibility to where I can understand myself better and these experiences. And I agree. I think it's wild to come out and tell everybody that we're just misidentifying things. And the evidence is there that there's something going on, and it's affecting people. And it's now just that matter of capturing the evidence and having it be valid. And
Yeah.
Jim, I think you're doing an awesome job with that. I had no idea we had that many sensors out right now. So
Yeah.
like
It went fast. It just, and that's why when all these, I don't want to call them, they're not really orders. They're people that are signing up to participate in the study. That's the whole idea. It's not like it's not a financial model there. It's more like, we need statistics. We need to raise the number of devices. So when something does happen, so let's just say we were in New Jersey, for instance, and
right.
let's say a year from now, when we've got thousands of drones out there, we have a large population of these sensors. We would have seen a drone fly from sensor to sensor to sensor, and we would be able to almost pick that thing up and say, this is where it is, this is where it's going, and this is where it came from. Just because we have a population. And that's the idea of the study. Is now we said they're out there. We know they're out there. Let's get enough density out there so we can actually monitor this thing. So if it is an orb, we can see it, figure it out, triangulate it, do a triangulation on it, figure out where it's been, and get more information that way.
I think that's the solution. I mean, we can look at the sky and we can use flight trackers and apps on our phone, and we can wait for the official reports to come back. But we're getting so many different convoluted stories with the MUPAS devices. You can literally, if we had a cluster of those around New Jersey and upstate New York and around all that area, you could literally track these mysterious drones and UFOs as they went across the city. You could tell, oh, it flew from this place to this place to this place, and know where it came from and where it went, the energy it was giving off, and be able to get a good baseline, especially if you line that up with people taking videos and typing in what they saw. We would get a really clear idea that, what's going on. And I think that's kind of where we're at, right?
Right. So what you do is you move away from anecdotal type information to scientific information, where you can say, well, definitively, this is, you quantify, basically.
Fascinating. So what's next now? We've got all these drones. We're developing the sensors. Is it just a matter of getting them out there and keeping the system stable?
Yep. Improving the AI models so it senses them better, reports them better. The more data, the more narratives we get. It's more. It's basically trying to get as much data as possible. And then I want to be clear that, this is not something that is going to be hidden away. This is going to be released. It's going to, we're going to be, of course, getting rid of all the personal information, getting rid of everything. And so basically just, it's the analysis that'll be released out to everybody, and everybody can get involved and weigh in and give their ideas and thoughts. So this is a community thing, not just a personal thing.
Where do you want people to go in order to find a device or to get involved and join the team?
Well, I know that you have the capabilities of having that. So I think, let's say, I think you're following are people that are seriously looking to create answers. So I would encourage people to go to your site and get involved in the study. But I do have a place where you can go to learn things. I can actually, if you want, I can put that in the.
You bet. Yeah, and I'll put the links down in the description box below this video, so you can go check it out. The specific one to get the MUPAS device or to join the MUPAS team is through my Patreon page. So if you click on that, basically you can. you can order a MUPAS device for your own home. And then there's a subscription every month so that you can log in and see all of your activity and everything that's going on in the sensor live.
Yep.
And it helps supports the servers and keep the websites running. And then also we give you access to my sensor so that when I have experiences, if you're a part of the team, anytime I do a journal report, I have an experience, or we see my charts go off, you have access to log in and see the data from my house and my sensor to kind of know what's going on. Plus I film my video series and publish all that on YouTube and everywhere as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and show them where people can go to find out more.
I put it in the private chat. Should I put it in the?
Yeah, go ahead and share screen if you've got, that would be great. And I'll just pop it up.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, that's fine. We'll just put it, the experiencerstudies.com at MUPAS. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just the site that I put together. I'm not sharing. So this is a site that I put together when people were asking me all sorts of questions about this. Instead of, so I put together this site that has all the information. You go in education, it's got all the help. It has all of the, it actually has that report. People can look at that report, just click into this thing and go through. That report's actually available on the site. And so I have all this educational stuff. I have the Havana syndrome information here. So you can go here and look at all the information that's been gathered up to this point. Colin Kelleher wrote a really nice article about this hitchhiker and hitchhiker phenomena. Anyway, so this is just a site I put together, and you can peruse through this and get whatever you want. Go to Carl's site to actually get involved and participate.
Awesome. Jim, I appreciate it. I think we've gone over an hour now, and I think it's given everybody a good idea. So, I mean, if you're experiencing drones, orbs, UFOs, or paranormal activity in your home, check out the links. Consider getting involved in the MUPAS team. And even if you don't have the funds right now to get a device, you can still join as a free member and just get involved in the chat and keep up with everything that's going on. But you don't have to be left in the dark. You don't have to just listen to the official reports that come out saying, that you're just confused, you're mistaken. You can get curious yourself, get to the bottom of it. You don't have to wait for answers from other people. You can figure this out. And like we've talked about, most of the answers that the government are going to give you are coming from people like us, whether you like it or not. It's trickling up from regular citizens, doctors, physicists, and people that are working on this, like you, Dr. Segala. And that's where the government and these congressmen are getting all their information from anyways. And so if you want to figure out answers to what's going on in your life, take a look at Dr. Segala's work, join the MUPAS team, and stay in tune with it. Are you going to be on any shows or have anything else coming out soon?
Yeah. I think in February, there's a show with Leslie Keene. She's a great UFO researcher. It'll be on, actually it's on Net Geo or National Geographic. It's her UFO. So I'm on 2 episodes, and we talk about this system right here and how this system has an impact, what it's designed to do, the New Hampshire property and all this kind of stuff. So we're 2 episodes there. And then while I was at Blind Frog, we filmed 2 episodes. So I'll be on that show. I guess I don't even know when that comes out. Maybe May or June,
probably,
or something
in
like
the
that.
summer.
Yeah. They're still in the editing and all that stuff. So it'll be out there. And it's all about this device. We went out there and it sounds some really weird stuff. I mean, it was like, I can't believe you guys are staying out here at night.
Right.
And you've been there, right? You've been there a lot.
Yeah, I've been to Blind Frog. I've been up around Skinwalker, all over. I'm supposed to go out and hang out next year with Chris Bledsoe and do a bunch of stuff with him. It'd be really cool. I don't know if he has a sensor or not, but it would be nice to place one with Bledsoe with a camera. I don't know if you can say anything. I won't dig there, but
yeah. But so I got a couple things coming up. There's always, and then I'm with the Reddit groups. The Reddit groups are great. They're amazing people. They're pushing this thing. We have a survey coming out that is, well, we actually have a survey out right now for experiencers if they want. You mind if I do that? I can show them the.
Let's do it.
hold on. I guess you could edit.
No, it's fine. And my audience is used to me going unscripted too. I'm very raw when I publish my stuff,
Okay.
so it's no big deal. I would be fascinated. I know he's very confidential and very private, but I would love to talk to Hal Putoff about the consciousness aspects of all of this, because I've even started doing some experiments where I try to do meditation and then affect the sensor with my own consciousness, where I try to visualize like I've traveled out of body and like I'm touching the sensor, like the old experiments they used to do back in Stanford, where they would have Ingo Swann try to affect different magnetometers. I've done that a couple of times. My Patreon page has been like, how do you know it's not your own mind when you start focusing your consciousness or seeing something, that it's you affecting the sensor? Sure. And I think that's also fascinating about, there's this new podcast that came out. I don't know if you've heard it, called the Telepathy Tapes, but it's these doctors that are studying kids with nonverbal levels of autism, kids that are non-communicative.
Yes, I've
and
heard of this.
They're finding out that the children have a telepathic connection with their mother, and they can literally read their mother's thoughts and minds and draw shapes and even know what they're thinking. Even though they can't speak verbally, they're able to communicate through iPads and things now. And they're proving through experiments that these kids are basically telepathic. And they also claim that they go to this almost a psychic realm in their consciousness, where all these other kids that are non-communicative, autistic, go and they hang out. Like they call it the hill. Like they go to the same place and they all hang out, and it's not even in this physical reality. And they are claiming that there's ghosts and other entities there as well. And so all of that is just so fascinating, how human consciousness and how we are a part of all of this too. It's really fascinating. I'd love to talk about that more. So that's an experiencer survey
that the Reddit group put together, where you go in and there's 150 something questions, and it's all in categories: environmental, your experiences, some medical, biological, stuff like that. And basically it's trying to get information that we can quantify some of the categorical type of experiences people have, to understand the whole idea of, like I said, 70% of the people in the population claim to have experiences. You can't discount that. So we're trying to, with these people, trying to understand exactly what that means. So they put together this 150 questions, and it's all the kind of things that, it's like yes or no. And, it gives you the opportunity to vocalize. You can go crazy. And we put this through an AI engine, which actually goes through and it picks out everything. This is all completely anonymous. Nobody knows who you are. You can do this completely anonymous. It's all done by, basically just some phrase ID that you put in. You can make up yourself or whatever. And it's meant to collect scientific data in a very specific way to help understand what the heck is going on with all this experience. So, and I can actually I'll put that in the chat too, so you can.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. So you can get involved at any level if you want. If you want to just join as a free member, if you want to fill out the survey and kind of share your experiences, or if you want to go all the way and order one of the devices, you can do that off of the Patreon page. And then you can live track the data. If you're in New Jersey right now and every night you're having drones fly over, we can help you track and catch that data and translate what's going on and figure that out. We might not be able to tell you exactly what it is, but we could definitely catch the proof.
Yep. Give you a little peace of mind.
Definitely. Jim, I think that was awesome. I think this is a good thing for people to know. They're not crazy. They're not imagining this stuff. There's been serious effort behind the scenes going on. And now all of this is going to start to come out, these experiencer studies and everything. It's really, really exciting to get the validity and the support. Even when I went over to Norway, the whole shift was different there. When I went to Project Hesteland, the entire theme of the conference was that the scientists and the physicists and the astrophysicists and the experiencer we all have to stop fighting, and we have to drop our prejudices, arguing against each other, and actually work together. Because in the end, of the best case scenario is like people like me and you team up, and the experiencers and the scientists both collaborate to collect the data to see what's going on with an open mind. And that's what's happening here. And I think it's amazing. So Jim, I appreciate you coming on and helping reassure people, and also to provide solutions, because right now we're not getting any solutions from outside. The government's just telling us to not pay attention. And so, yeah, I really appreciate your time and coming and sharing all this with everybody.